Hello YouTubers, welcome back to the Talking Shop channel. We're back in the shop today. We got another tractor in, so grab a seat and join me out in the shop and we'll go take a look, see what we got going on. Okay, we're out in the shop. We got my buddy's Kubota out here. It's an L3010 Kubota. And we are doing a little project for him. Actually, we're going to do a couple things for him. Number one, he knocked out the front grille, so we're going to replace some of them pieces for him. He bought a new from Kubota. He's got a light bar he wants to add on top of the roll cage, so we're going to take care of that for him. But the biggest thing we're doing is we are installing a remote hydraulic kit for him. Now, this comes from Summit Hydraulics. Summit is not a sponsor of my channel or anything. It's just the kit that he picked and he upgraded. He opted for the electric version of it. So we're gonna have to mount some switches for him. I went ahead off camera. I apologize. The camera was charging, so it was dead. I wouldn't do anything. But off camera, I installed the electric solenoid valve onto the block. That's just a straightforward install. These come with like a cardboard protector on the bottom. So you take that off and you set this valve on and you install it with the 4 bolts that it comes with. There's a port you have to line up. This can't be flipped around. It's got to go on a certain way, but the instructions are pretty clear how to do that. So I got the 3 valves installed, and he opted for the 3 valve. He also upgraded and went with 3 solenoid valves because he wants one out front. He plans to put a grapple on eventually. So he went with the 3 valve. I went ahead and I installed the solenoid valves. I plugged the 2 ports that I'm not using, pressure and tank. We're going to use it on the bottom side. There's top and bottom. You can take off of either one. We're going to take off the bottom, so I plugged the top. I went ahead and I installed his quick couplers for him. Got that job done. So now we're going to take a look at running the wiring and getting the switch mounted up. So I'm going to get set up for that, and I will show you what we've got going on for the switch and for the control for the third function. So stay tuned. Okay, so here's what we got going on for the controls for the electric solenoid valve. This one here is going to control number 1 and 2. Got rocker switches on the top, and there was a radio mounted here, and it was actually a Kubota radio that he bought from the dealer when he bought the tractor. That radio failed, and he said, "You want to know what? It's in the way. Just get rid of it." So I took that off, and he wants this control mounted something like this. So I'm going to utilize these holes with a grommet to try and get the wires back to connect. Now, the wire here has got this connector. That is going to connect with this harness here that goes to the solenoid valves. And we also got a power and ground we got to run to it, which that's going to be no problem. I'll just catch something under the dash that's got keyed on power. Now for the third function, for the hydraulic spool valve that's going to control what he puts on the front, he bought this little controller for it. And all this one does is replace the knob on the loader control. So that's going to sit on something like that. Once again, we're going to have to run down. We'll catch the same power and ground. And it's going to come with an extension harness that plugs in here and goes and joins our third spool in the back. So I'm going to start with mounting some holes for this little bracket, and we'll drill a couple of holes, and we will put a couple of machine screws through it with some lock nuts on it so it can't come loose. Maybe even we can go with 1/4 inch if it'll fit down through there. But I'm going to go ahead and mark the holes, and we'll grab a drill bit and we'll poke some holes in her. Hang on. That drill bit was broke. These are the bolts they sent with the kit. I'm going to the supply room. I think I got some fender washers. You want to know what? This didn't come with any washers, but this should have a washer. Oh, where's our little control wheel? Right there. Okay. We may have power right here for his radio. This was the wire going to the radio. I'm going to have to check that. If that's key power, we've got our key power right here. Now the end of this has different bushings in it to adapt this to different size levers. According to the directions, it can do maximum 3/4, minimum 3/8. That would be nice if that would work. Yeah. Might be metric. right, there we go. All right, so either this wire's broke, I don't see any other switches to turn the radio on. So either there's a fuse blown or this wire is broke or something, but there's no power here at this wire. So we'll just run our own. It's no big deal. Alright, so this is the harness that comes with the third valve. If you upgrade and do the third function, this is the harness that you're going to get. So we got two Deutsch connectors. Those plug into the valve. So and this is going to run up and hook into our control on our loader. Then I'm going to round this hole out, one of the radio mount holes. I'm going to have to round that out big enough for this connector to fit through it. So if I take a wrench, it's going to have to be about a 3/4 hole. I tried rushing it. I forgot there's a brace right underneath here for the fenders. So. Just fall through. As much as you know that's going to happen, you can never prepare for it. And we're going to have to round it out a little bit more yet because of the lock. I don't know how. Maybe should have just rounded that out with a die grinder. Seven-eighths is a lot for a hand drill. Beautiful. There's our hot and brown that we're going to have to come up with eventually. is the wire for the third function. That's going to hook into our control buttons on the left of the loader. Just kind of getting a rough idea where everything's going to fall here. Looking right through that here. There's room for it. Slices format. What I'm doing is I'm going through the hole in the floorboard that is in there already for the controls for the cables that operate, because your actual spool valve is down here in front. These are just cables. The oil's actually up farther. Okay, so that's what. And this is actually going to turn and run down. I'm going to join with this. Seems like it's a nice kit. I'm not a great big fan of them because I like the factory look. Everything is designed to be nice and clean. This one here, the biggest trick with installing one of these is making it look like it belongs on there, and it's not something that you add. We're gonna do a little work with some zip ties and some wire loom up underneath. But for now, that gives us a rough idea. And this is going to have to be taken back off because the boot's got to go on. put a slice in the boot big enough to get the connector through. All right, that pretty much takes care of that. I'm going to find some some 12-volt power, and when I do, I'll bring you guys back. I'll show you where I find it and what we're going to do to get power to these two controls. I'm not going to bore you on camera with that while I hunt around with the test light. But once I find it, I will bring you back, let you know where I found it, and how I took off, and I put some tools away and get some soldering tools out, because we're going to have to do some wiring next. So we will see you back in a few minutes. Okay guys, so on the wiring, what I did was the factory fuse panel for this tractor is right here by the clutch pedal. This is a clutch pedal. This is the factory fuse panel. It's held on with 2 screws. So what I did was I took this off, obviously took the cover off, took it off, flipped it around. We got 2 feed wires. There's a red, which is power all the time, and there's a red with a white tracer, which is power with the key on. So what I did was I split that back, and I soldered a wire on here, and I just looped it around, and I ran through the fuse panel. I then went on the other side of the fuse panel with another wire, crimped a socket on the end of it, and ran it up through. We're going to loom this factory harness back up. You'll never know that I was there. And we got our 10 amp fuse right here on the bottom. These are all the factory fuses right here. This is one that I added. This will power our hydraulics, or our solenoid for our hydraulics. It'll be right in the factory fuse panel. The wires will tie up with the factory harness. You'll never know that I was there. Okay, so we're back up here to the back of the tractor. And just to recap, so what I did was mounted the aluminum block and the valve stack together. Now, like I said, these come in separate pieces. So I bolted, when you take these out of the box, there's a cardboard cover on them with some protectors in it. You take that off, bolt the electric valve stack to the block, and there is a port you have to line up. And I found the instructions. So there, your valve stack has a P on it, and you will see this little port right here. The P side has to line up with that port, so it's pretty self-explanatory. And the screws get torqued to 2 foot-pounds, so they're not very tight at all. So you just snug them up. Then I mounted the bracket, or mounted the aluminum block to these brackets, mounted the bracket to this plate, mounted the plate to the roll cage. Now, like I said, this kit comes with numerous plates. There's all different kinds of ways you can do it. You can stretch it across and go this way. There's all different kinds of ways you can do it, but this is the way I come up with. Threaded in my adapters. There's some adapters, and then you thread the quick couplers into the adapter. Got that done. I then wired in the electrical part of it. Now, if you remember, I pulled power from our fuse panel down here by the clutch, And I tied that power in with the wiring harness that came with the kit. Now guys, you can't mess this up. The connectors only go one way. So you just connect here to your valve stack. Then you got this big connector here. And then we circled around, and on the end of it, there's a power and a ground. So I got a power and a ground. And then we come up, and there's a plug-in on this harness coming out of the back of this box. And there's a plug-in on the harness for the one on the loader control. And you just plug them in. And that's all it is. It's all wired up, ready to go. Now the last thing I did was I ran 2 hoses. We got to have feed coming in, and we got to return back to the tractor. That's these 2 guys right here. Now this tractor's a little bit older. It's about 20 years old. So I couldn't find a whole lot of information on the L3010 Kubota. But after doing some digging on my own, what I found was, and this is our power beyond port right here on the loader valve. This is what we got to tie into. So that snakes around, and it did hook right here. So what I did is I pulled that hose off, and I hooked it to my hose going to my P side on my valve block. So we're coming out of the loader valve down through this hose, feeding the P side of my block. We're coming out of the T for tank on the block. That's this hose here, and that circles up, and that hooks right there to where the power beyond hose did hook before. So I'm basically just hooking and unhooking. I'm really just joining in what Kubota already had. So, and I did start the tractor. The loader works, the 3-point works. I don't have anything here with the cylinder right now to test the valve block. But that pretty much sums it up. I'm going to call my buddy and have him come and get it. When he's talking about getting a hydraulic third arm for his 3-point. So when he gets that, I'll have him bring it back. We can plumb that in for him, and we can test his valve block and make any adjustments, or if we got to change something, we can do it at that time. But for this job, that's a wrap, guys. So we will see you next time in the shop on our next project. Have a good one.